Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're just going to go ahead and just give a couple of moments for folks to continue to filter into the chat. And in the meantime, please take a look at the starting slide and get jazzed. I know I am. We have some great people today to talk to you guys, and pretty excited. Okay, so as people continue to filter into the chat, I just want to say that my name is Jenna Quinn, and I am the Assistant Director of Alumni and Affinity Engagement here at Cal State Long Beach. And it is my absolute pleasure to welcome you all to this edition of the 49er Industry Chat. A couple housekeepings. We just need to let everyone know that this recording or this session is being recorded. So really what that means for you in practice is that this will be available for you to view again, to share with a friend or colleague or anyone who you think might be interested. And you can find that on our website at www.csulb.edu/alumni. For those of you who joined us live today, if you have any questions, you can go ahead and submit your questions for our guest speaker using that Q&A box down there at the bottom of your screen. If you have a question, please just go ahead and throw it in that Q&A. You don't have to wait till the end. At any point in time, you can go ahead and send that in. And so with that, happy to introduce our moderator today, Danielle Munoz Chanel. And she is the director of the Basic Needs here at Cal State Long Beach. She's a licensed marriage and family therapist, bringing over 15 years of experience in social and clinical services. Rooted in her upbringing as a Latinx household with limited resources, Danielle is passionately committed to supporting historically under-resourced communities. She joined the Long Beach family in 2022, implementing our first wellness ambassador training for faculty, and was proudly appointed to the President's Commission on the Status of Women. As a published author, focusing on safety net programs at Hispanic serving institutions, Danielle's work has been featured on various NPR programs. And she is also the founder and co-host of a mental health podcast geared towards Latinx communities and continues to advocate for accessible healthcare and education for students and their families. Thank you so much for joining us, Danielle.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here and really happy to chat with Dr. Carolyn O'Keefe today. So I think we can get started. I'm going to introduce you all to a wonderful colleague. She is our system-wide director for basic needs and student wellness. And I personally know Carolyn because she is our colleague and confidant, as all of us do basic needs work. She brings joy and wisdom to our work every day. So welcome, Dr. Carolyn O'Keefe.
Thank you.
So I'm going to share a little bit about your bio, and then we're going to get into some questions. So Dr. Carolyn O'Keefe is the California State University System-Wide Director for Student Wellness and Basic Needs. Dr. O'Keefe is a licensed psychologist and comes to the Office of the Chancellor after serving as the Director of Counseling and Psychological Services at Cal State San Bernardino for 4 years. She has over 17 years of experience working as a psychologist in university counseling centers, which followed her career in the music industry. Dr. O'Keefe has worked in higher education for over 35 years. Before becoming a psychologist, she worked as a professional trumpet player in the music department at UCLA, serving as an assistant to the UCLA Marching Band. In addition to her doctorate of psychology and Master's of Arts in Psychology from Pepperdine University, she holds a doctorate of Music Arts and Masters of Fine Arts from UCLA. Dr. O'Keefe is a proud CSU Long Beach music alum. Welcome.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So Carolyn, I know we chatted earlier today just about, this idea of who said a zebra can't change its stripes. And this is going to be a really fun conversation. But first, let's start off with a little background. So tell us about your experiences and what led you to CSULB.
Yeah, so I was a first gen college student and grew up in a large, predominantly blue collar family. I'm the youngest of six. And so college wasn't the natural trajectory for me and my siblings. But when I was about 11 years old, I started playing the trumpet. Um, and lo and behold, I had a lot of natural talent and was pretty gifted. And so that kind of changed the path for me because when you're a musician and you have some talents in that area, college is the training ground where musicians go, and so that was kind of I often describe it as like a fast moving train, because then all of your decisions start to become based upon being a musician and this is what I'm going to do. I had never intended to go to college until that was the path. um, and I'll admit, as an undergrad, I struggled as a first gen college student. It took me 6 years to get my bachelor's degree. Um, because I took a couple of years just figuring out how to do stuff. I was on academic probation at the beginning, struggled with kind of how to manage classes and the whole bit. So, super, super happy that I was at Long Beach, had some great faculty mentors that really helped me settle in to being in college and applying myself academically, and then ultimately being able to succeed and go on to graduate school.
Wow, that's amazing. And so what made you select Long Beach?
When I was well, I first started at Cal State Fullerton. I actually went to Cal State Fullerton for a semester because I grew up in West Covina and Cal State Fullerton was closest to my home. But the summer before I started college, I attended Idlewild School of Music and the Arts, and the director of one of the ensembles there was the director of bands at Cal State Long Beach. And he immediately recruited me to transfer from Fullerton to Long Beach. And so mid-year, my freshman year, I transferred over to Long Beach. But when I was in high school, if you did music and you wanted to go to college in Southern California, there were four places that you would choose from. You would either go to Cal State Northridge, Cal State Fullerton, or Cal State Long Beach, or you would go to USC. And so, not being able to afford USC, I opted for Cal State and happily ended up at Cal State Long Beach.
Awesome. So we can say we stole you, and we're so glad we did. That's great. So you were kind of touching on this earlier, but while you were a student here, what was it like, here at Long Beach State? I know you came in with a music interest, but anything else that you did, clubs, activities, what was it like navigating classes, professor? Did you have a job?
I was fortunate. I did not have a job. I did live at home, so I was a commuter student, right? So I commuted in. I think it's about 30 miles each way. But having a music degree, being in it as a music major, it was pretty all consuming. And the interestingly, the semester I started, so that would be January 1982, was actually the semester that the new music department out on Atherton opened. So there was no pyramid, there was no Carpenter Performing Arts Center. Just floating out there all by itself was the music department. And, you know, it was a 20-minute walk to get to upper campus, to get to your GE classes. But, you know, being a music major really was all consuming. I played in orchestra, chamber orchestra, wind ensemble, brass ensemble. I was in a brass quintet. So, you know, lots and lots of hours of performance. And that in and of itself is really social. Being a music major is kind of like being in a family. And so, you know, those were my peeps. I think I was like 26 or 27 years old before I had a friend that wasn't a musician. So, you know, it just became, you know, all consuming.
Right. So you lived and breathed music and it was consuming, but I'm here today sitting in front of a psychologist who
Correct.
runs the statewide basic needs initiative and student wellness. So how did you get to this point? Like, what made you enter this field? What was your journey like?
Yeah, so I pursued music for a really long time. You know, as I said, it's kind of like a fast moving train. You know, you're good at this. You know, you have all kinds of people encouraging you down that path. And so, as I said, I had some great faculty in the music department at Long Beach that encouraged me to go to graduate school. And so I went to graduate school. I went to UCLA, and I started in the master's program there. And, you know, that's when I really started to get a sense that I could be very successful academically. By the end of my undergrad, I was doing really well academically. And then when I got to UCLA, I saw, hey, you know, I actually am pretty good at this academic stuff. But I continued on the music path. When I was a master's student, I had the opportunity to participate in an exchange fellowship. So I was an exchange fellow at the Royal College of Music in London for a year and studied there. And was just living the life. You know, I was freelancing all over Southern California, et cetera, et cetera. Well, the program I was in at UCLA was considered a terminal degree, and that means you've complete your master's, and there isn't an expectation that you would go on for a doctoral degree. And so when I completed my master's degree, you know, lo and behold, I had met somebody when I was living in London, and so I decided to take some time off and go live with this person who happened to be South African. So I went and I lived in South Africa for a year. I was there at a very exciting time. I was there when they voted to end apartheid, et cetera, et cetera. So that was a really exciting thing.
Wow.
But while I was there, UCLA started a doctoral program. And so when I came back, I entered the doctoral program, the Doctorate of Music of Arts program at UCLA, and began working in the music department for the marching band. And so I was doing that. I completed my doctorate and was still working there and freelancing throughout Southern California. And I had some friends that were like, you know, we participate in this LGBTQ mentoring program at the Student Counseling Center, and we think you would be a great mentor. We think you would be great at this. You should do it. And I was like, nah. And well, they finally talked me into it. And so I joined this mentoring program, and it was like, not just light bulbs, but like stage lights lit up for me. It was like, you know, this is such a good fit for me. But now keep in mind, I'd already completed a doctorate. You know, I had a lot of natural talent as a musician. You know, I did really well, but I really wasn't very competitive. And I really didn't love practicing. Not that anybody loves practicing, but those are kind of two elements that are important to be successful. And so I did the mentoring for a few years. And then I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll just stick my toes in the water of counseling. And so I enrolled in a master's program at Pepperdine, a marriage and family therapy program. And immediately I just loved it. And so I knew immediately that I wanted to change my path to go on and become a psychologist. And so that's kind of how that shift happened. I ended up writing my dissertation on the mentoring program at UCLA. And then kind of in like, a sweet circle of events, I, at one point in my career, ended up running that very type of mentoring program at UCI. So that's kind of how that shift happened. I stumbled into discovering something that was just an incredible fit for me and who I am as a person.
Wow. And also that took some openness to be, talked into it. Sounds like you needed some convincing at first because it was, I'm hearing like this fast moving train. You were in music and just kind of following that. And this sort of was like, what would it be to do something else? And it ended up being a great fit for you. And that's something we always tell students to just be open minded to see what might connect, as they go on. But speaking of that, we have a student asking about some of those fellowship opportunities that you were a part of. How did you find those fellowship opportunities or any advice in looking for those?
Yeah, so the particular one that I was in was a relationship that was direct between UCLA and the Royal College of Music. So it was a direct exchange. And so there were students from the Royal College of Music that came to UCLA, and then there were students from UCLA that went to London. But, we have within the CSU system a really vibrant international exchange program. And so each individual campus has exchange programs. They're called different things on every campus, but I'm not sure what it's called at Cal State Long Beach, but international programs, something like that is probably what it's called. And so there's a whole array of programs that are offered that either it's direct from Cal State Long Beach or part of our system-wide international programs. So we have at the Chancellor's office a whole office that oversees international programs that may be in partnership with other universities to send American students abroad to study in numerous countries.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I love that you have this worldly experience too that you're able to do along the way. I feel sometimes students feel pressured to do undergrad, then go right into grad school, then go right into a career, and never really take the time to explore literally the world and different opportunities. So thank you for sharing. And I highly suggest students take Carolyn's advice and kind of look for those exchange programs. So Carolyn, we want to kind of move into today. You're the director, the system-wide director at the Chancellor's Office for Student Wellness and Basic Needs. So what does that look like for you? What's a typical day like in your position?
Well, it's interesting, because I got into this work and higher ed because I'm really passionate about working with students. I loved being a university psychologist. I worked in the CAPS department at Cal State Long Beach for 3 years. I worked in the CAPS department at Cal State Fullerton for a year. I was at UC Irvine for 7 years in their counseling center. And then, as you heard in my intro, I was the director of the counseling program at San Bernardino for 4 years, Cal State San Bernardino. So I'm really passionate about serving students. And that wasn't such a huge shift from what I was doing before working for the marching band at UCLA. Band kids are band kids, and they hung out in our office all the time. They came to us for advice, for support, and so while it seems like a huge shift, it wasn't a huge shift. The hugest shift for me was moving to the chancellor's office from a campus, right?
Mhm.
So the campus has this life in the academic calendar. It kind of, ebbs and flows with the academic calendar, and you have opportunities to interact with students and provide direct support to students. In the chancellor's office, if y'all haven't been to Golden Shore, it's more of a corporate type of environment, and we don't have that ebb and flow of the academic calendar. However, I'm very excited about the work that I do at the chancellor's office because it's providing me the opportunity to um, provide support to students on a much larger scale. So while I miss out on that, um, one-on-one with students and the direct contact with students, I really am given the opportunity to work on initiatives and support change at a system level that really supports our students and helps them toward degree completion, toward not just surviving college, but thriving and having a great experience without having the burden of basic needs weighing them down, or health or mental health or those other kinds of concerns interfering with their ability to enjoy their time in higher ed.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have certainly benefited in basic needs across CSU from your mentorship, from your creativity and your joy. So this makes a lot of sense now as I get to know your journey here. So in that same line, like what might be some of the more challenging parts of your job, and maybe also some rewarding parts of your job?
Sure. I don't think it would come to as a surprise that that if we had all the money in the world to grease the wheels, that would be incredible. But funding is often a challenge. The types of basic needs initiatives that we would love to be doing across the system, and the level of support that we would love to be able to provide to our students, just isn't always possible because there's a finite amount of dollars that we have to commit to these areas. So, that's always a huge challenge. We're really fortunate, though, in the state of California that we have a governor and a legislature who finds these initiatives very important. And so we do receive funding for mental health, basic needs, and these types of initiatives. And so that is a positive. Where I know I have colleagues in other states that don't have the same legislature and aren't getting the same type of support from their state. So that's really wonderful for us in the CSU. And the CSU is a big ship. And it's hard to turn a big ship. And so progress and change can sometimes be slow. And that can be frustrating, right? But along with that slowness, comes the opportunity to ensure that we're doing things well, that we're doing things right, and that the things that we're doing make sense. So that kind of has a plus and a negative. But when we think about, well, students are only with us for a certain period of time, we often feel this urgency to get things rolling right away because we want to support the students that are already there and already having the need. Positives, I could go on and on and on forever about the positives. Working with incredible people like you, Danielle, who are on our campuses and very passionate about supporting students, ensuring that students have access to the resources that they need to be successful, whether that be support with a food pantry or getting connected with a resource in the community or mental health counseling or just visit to the doctor because you have the flu or a cold. Those are kind of the small wins that really aren't that small. I hear so many great stories about how our folks on our campuses are really supporting our students. Folks may or may not be aware that we have a system-wide Narcan distribution program, and so we distribute Narcan on all of our campuses. So that's, opiate reversal medication. And it's just incredible to hear the student health center director post to the listserv that a life was saved because somebody used Narcan in housing. So, and those stories abound. That there are things about this job that are really exciting in terms of the actual impact we're having on lives and the way we can support people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's one of the best parts about the job in basic needs and mental health and wellness. You can see the impact, even with just a few programs. And speaking of that, I know you mentioned you worked here briefly at Long Beach State. What was that like? What impact maybe did you feel you had here?
Yeah, so I was very excited. So when you're in graduate school for psychology, there are requirements around clinical training experiences. And so while I was in my psychology program at Pepperdine, I did what's called a practicum in the counseling center there at Long Beach State. And so practicum is like a part-time training program where you get to work with students and you're supervised by the staff there, et cetera, et cetera. And then as a doctoral student in psychology, one of the last things you do, right, you do a dissertation, and then you also do a 1-year full-time internship. And I was really lucky to get placed in my internship at Cal State Long Beach. And so I had the opportunity to do my last serious clinical training there at Cal State Long Beach. So that was really exciting. After that, I went on to do a postdoc at LMU. But then when it came time for me to find a job, I was hired by the then assistant associate vice president for student affairs, who at that time was Marianne Takamoto. She had been the counseling center director when I was there as an intern. And so she reached out and said, hey, are you looking for a job? We have this great opportunity here at Cal State Long Beach. And what it was the university had just been awarded the Garrett Lee Smith Suicide Prevention Grant, which was a huge federal grant to work on suicide prevention efforts. And so she was looking for somebody who could be a psychologist in the counseling center, as well as be the program director for this grant. So I'm really happy to say I was the first program director for Project Ocean. And so, it's still vibrant and thriving on campus. I'm so proud to say that I was at the helm at the beginning of that, and really kicked off a lot of those initiatives and worked on that project with a great team of folks, many of whom I'm sure are still at Cal State Long Beach. So very, very, very exciting.
Wow, that is amazing. And Carolyn, I see your career journey like almost like a path, like a truly like a journey, like a treasure map. You're making moves, taking risks. And so was there any like mantras or things you told yourself as you were making these decisions? I think that's where students are these days, is like, do I go for that job? Do I make that leap of faith? What's that process like for you internally?
I think it's hard because we naturally have a lot of anxiety. I had a lot of anxiety going back to school, pursuing a different major, when I went back to Pepperdine to start this psychology thing, because I was like, my whole identity was wrapped up around being a musician, and, it'd been my life since I was 11. And so, really giving yourself a break, giving yourself the breadth and the space to be able to explore something else. You can always change your mind later. I think that a lot of times we get kind of stuck in a very blindered way of looking at our lives and thinking, well, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to do this. And sometimes our parents are also influencing that, right? You're going to go to college, then you're going to go to law school, and you're going to be a lawyer, and then you're going to take care of me. but but having the courage to take a gap year and explore some other things, having the courage to maybe take an internship or a job that's outside of the area that you're pursuing, just to explore, to see if that's something that you might be interested in. Everything doesn't have to fall within the lane of that ultimate career goal, because you may not know what it is that might be a better fit for you. Like I happened on that, later in life. So, being willing to take some chances and try some different things without this fear that, oh, but then I'm going to be a year behind. That there's no clock.
Mm-hmm.
If you're looking at the clock the entire time, you're not sitting back and enjoying the ride. And so sometimes you just have to give yourself a break and sit back and enjoy the ride. Take an opportunity to study abroad. Take an opportunity to engage in, the CSU has an incredible summer arts program. Do the summer arts program one summer. You'll actually even get units for that, so really just taking those leaps. Fear of change is human nature. We don't like to change. But honestly, the only way we overcome any kind of fear is by approaching it and going through it, right? So from the psychological perspective, what we typically do is we approach something that's anxiety provoking to us, we turn away. And what happens is that makes the anxiety bigger and bigger and bigger. The more we approach and turn away, the bigger the anxiety gets. Like fear of flying. The longer you go without flying, the harder it is going to be to fly. And the only way to overcome that is to fly, and to fly again, and to fly again, right? It's that repetitive approaching those things, taking a big, deep breath, meditating, and just pushing through. Because honestly, even if it doesn't go the way you planned, you're going to learn something from it and you're going to grow.
Yeah. That's so amazing. And we might not have a Project Ocean program that we do today if you had turned away, right, from this field. So just amazing things can happen. And a student asked a really good question right now. Like, imagine if you had known that you like music and psychology, right, at the same time. Like, what advice might you give a student who is deciding between two majors or two passions?
Yeah, well, honestly, you don't have to choose. So I did both for quite a while. So while I was working at Cal State Long Beach in the counseling center, I was still actively freelancing as a trumpet player all over Southern California. And so, sometimes you can do both. You can certainly double major. I had a very good friend in graduate school at UCLA who was like Wonder Woman, I think. She was in a molecular biochemistry PhD program. She was a world-class French horn player who'd studied at a conservatory in Paris. And in case she didn't have enough on her plate already, she ran marathons. You're only limited by yourself. And so if you want to double major, double major. And I'm not saying, double major in music and psychology and then become a art therapist or a music therapist. No, you can actually do both. But you have to realize that it's going to take a lot of time because you're going to have to practice and you're going to have to study and you're going to have to do what it takes. But if you're passionate about both of those things, then it's not going to be a chore to you. But there's nothing that limits us more than ourselves.
And believing that the path after graduation doesn't have to be so limiting to our degree, that we might change paths later or go to grad school and do a different thing than our undergrad. And I love that your story really tells that, like, two worlds can meet and be together, through your whole life. So you talked about mentorship. I know you helped start a mentorship program. So how important do you feel like the role of mentorship, and should students seek mentorship out on their journey?
Yeah, I whether it's formal mentorship or informal mentorship, I can't even begin to imagine what my life would have been like without having those faculty members in the music department at Cal State Long Beach when I was an undergrad that actually believed in me, that actually, I had all kinds of imposter syndrome. Here I am from this blue collar family, first gen, et cetera, et cetera. I had all kinds of imposter syndrome going on. But those faculty mentors that I had, and these were informal mentorships, these were me going to their office hours and asking questions and engaging in conversations with them, but their belief in me and my ability to succeed and to move to the next level was invaluable, because I don't know that I would have done that without that support. Most of us have those little voices inside of us that are like, do you think you're going to be able to succeed, if you do this? So whether it be a formal mentorship or an informal mentorship, if you're a person of color, find faculty members of color or staff members of color to talk to about their trajectories. Because a lot of times people of color feel like the institution isn't a good fit for them. So find, folks that have navigated some of those challenges and get tips and feedback from them. You know, and it doesn't have to be a faculty member. Find a staff member, find somebody like Danielle, and just pick their brain and talk to them and get to know them, because it's in those more casual conversations that we build those relationships and really get an opportunity to have that support and explore you know, some of these bigger questions with somebody who can kind of help you talk through it, because maybe they're on the other side of a lot of those decisions.
Yeah, that's amazing. And it makes me think too that making those big decisions and leaning into your fear can sort of be a little bit more doable when you have a mentor and someone to walk you through those fears. Do you feel like that helped?
Absolutely. You know, having somebody to talk to, having somebody that, like I said, is on the other side of a lot of those decisions, that you can, you know, explore, you know, how might this play out if I make this decision, or how might this play out if I go in this direction. And at the end of the day, nothing's a sure bet. You know, there's nothing in life that's a sure bet. And so, you know, following your heart, following your passions, and you know, talking to people that have that experience is invaluable, because they'll give you the space to explore those ideas, where our natural inclination oftentimes is to press them down, because they bring up that anxiety in us.
Wow. I can imagine you were such a good mentor, Carolyn, helping other students through this. Okay, we have a couple of questions about your days as a musician and where you might be now. So some students are asking, do you still play the trumpet and do you still perform?
I do not. So, you know, a big thing about being a musician is constant practice. And I just no longer have the bandwidth in my life to practice as much as I would need to feel comfortable performing on stage. You know, I very clearly remember my last, you know, performance. I was playing at the huge Greek cathedral that's in downtown LA, and we were playing Handel's Messiah, which has a huge trumpet solo, the trumpet shall sound, and I played it beautifully. You know, it went exceptionally well. I was particularly gifted at piccolo trumpet, and it went exceptionally well. And I was really, really anxious. I wasn't enjoying it as much as I had previously, because I wasn't spending as much time practicing. And so, you know, at that point, kind of the joy was gone. I continued to play for many years after that, more casually. I played at a service at a church that I attended weekly, and did, you know, and did that kind of stuff, but not the big high key type of performing that I had been doing before. And at this point in my life, I'm not playing much anymore. I occasionally play for my great nieces and nephews, or my partner's grandkids, but not that much playing anymore.
Yeah. I'm sure better than if I tried to do it, or the normal the average person. Well, any last, you know, we have about a minute left, but what last advice do you have for our students as they navigate, you know, choices and go moving forward from their time here at Long Beach?
Yeah, I guess I would say never let fear prevent you from pursuing a passion.
Mm.
You know, uh, never feel like you're not good enough. You know, just realize that so many of us have that imposter syndrome. And you know, we wouldn't be in college, we wouldn't be in graduate school, we wouldn't be doing the things that we're doing if we didn't belong there. And so, you know, I think just tackling those fears, tackling those anxieties, and tackling those little thoughts inside us that say, "Oh, you can't do this," because there's nothing that says we can't try, right? And so, being willing to venture out and do things outside of your comfort zone is so important.
That's amazing. So here at Long Beach, we push through our fears and we get out of our comfort zone. That's our legacy we leave as Long Beach folks. I love that.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much, Carolyn. We really enjoyed your talk today. You bring a lot of wisdom and joy and creativity, and we just appreciate your time. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Danielle.
Awesome. That you guys both amazing chat. I absolutely learned so much here and feel like I can go out and do another thing. But so for those of you who are viewing, if you want to watch this again or send it to a friend or just generally follow us, see what we're doing, see what the next one's going to be, next 49er industry chat or alumni event, please follow us, give us a like or two, and you can find everything that we're doing here at www.csulb.edu/alumni. But Carolyn, if folks wanted to maybe get in touch with you, ask a couple of follow-up questions, how might they be able to do that?
Right. You can find me on LinkedIn, Carolyn-O'Keefe on LinkedIn. Or you can always email me at the Chancellor's office. So it's just COKEE, F as in Frank E, at calstate.edu, because I'm right down the road. So would love and welcome folks reaching out and picking my brain or bouncing ideas off me. As I said, the thing I miss the most being at the Chancellor's office is having the opportunity to work with students. So don't hesitate to reach out.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much to both you, Dr. O'Keefe, and to Danielle. And also, thank you so much for those of you who joined in, and we'll catch you next time. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye, everybody. Good luck.